I'd like to welcome you to story time. I actually wasn't gonna record this. I was supposed to record this in a couple days, but I checked on my story time videos and they're doing pretty good. So I was like, might as well do it right now. Oh, and if you guys are like, Wins, what's up with the glasses? They're my blue light glasses. My eye has been a little irritated, so I'm wearing glasses for this story time. So this story time is gonna take place in Hawaii. And I'm just gonna stick with the girl stories because y'all tend to eat that up. One night I went out, me and my brother and friends, we're having fun. I'm dancing, having a good time. Next thing you know, this girl approached me. Not just any girl. This was one of the most attractive girls I've ever seen in my entire life. So she approached me. I was so shocked. I was like, me? She was just like, yeah. So we started talking instantly. I noticed her Australian accent. Let me tell you what, guys, Australian girls are one of my biggest weaknesses. So I noticed that she has an Australian accent and I'm like, this must be a dream. This is not real life. This 10 out of 10 girl approaches me. She's Australian. So she's talking to me. I'm not paying attention to a word she's saying. In my head, I'm just like, I don't believe this is happening. This is not real life. This is a dream and I'm gonna wake up. We're talking, we're dancing, we're having fun. And I finally get her social media. The night ended. So we started talking. One day she was just like, hey, what are you doing today? Let's hang out. I was like, I will always be free for you. So she was like, you know what? I realized that I didn't give her a name. So in the story, her name is gonna be Jasmine. So I was just like, yo, Jasmine, I'm free. And my brother was just like, tell her you wanna go on a hike. And I was like, yo, we should go on a hike. And she was like, oh, that sounds fun. What hike? What time? And I said, Manoa Falls at this time. She's just like, bet. So it's me, my brother. Well, he tagged along because he was like, I wanna witness this. So he came with us and Jasmine. So we meet up, we start the hike, we're having fun, we're chatting. And on a scale of 1 to 10, 4 out of 10. You know, not difficult, not extreme. Okay, I lied. It's a solid 3 out of 10. So we're hiking and we finally make it to the waterfall. And I'm trying to do my best to impress this girl. So I look back at my brother and I'm just like, hey, I think we should go to the second falls because I really want to impress this girl. He's like, all right. Now to make it to the second fall, it jumps up to a 6.57 level of difficulty. So we're hiking up here. Got to the point where she was just like, hey, I'm gonna put my sunnies in your bag and my car keys in your bag. For some reason, I didn't really trust myself with her stuff. So I looked at my brother. I was like, hey, can you just put this in your bag? He's like, cool. Yeah. So we make it to the second falls and she is just like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I'm just like, you know. Anything for you, boo. So once we make it to the second falls and she's just flabbergasted by how pretty everything is, my brother goes to me and says, hey, there's a third fall. Do you want to go to the third falls? I'm like, how difficult is the third fall? He's like, I've never really made it to the third falls, but we can try. I looked at him and I was like, all right, let's do it. Now, the level of difficulty to the third falls jumps up to a 10. 11, jumps up to an 11. So we're trying to make our way up to the third falls and it's free climbing, right? And you're climbing on slippery rock, and if you slip, you're falling 60 to 100 feet down. I'm nervous, but I'm trying to play it cool. I'm looking at Jasmine. She's nervous. She's looking at me, seeing if I'm nervous. I'm looking at my brother to see if he's nervous. He started to get a little nervous. So we get to a spot where it's kind of safe, and Jasmine looks at me and she says, yeah, I don't really feel comfortable going any higher. And I'm like, all right. I'm looking at my brother. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna keep going. You guys can go down. So me and Jasmine, we start heading back. We get back to the car and we realize we don't have the keys. My brother has the keys. I'm like, oh, shoot. Okay, I'll give him a call. I call him. He picks up the phone and I'm like, hey man, I think you have the keys. Can you come back down? He goes, so I have good news and I have bad news. And I'm like, what's the good news? He said, good news, I'm alive. I'm like, what's the bad news? And he's like, bad news, I don't know if I can safely get back down. I was like, now keep in mind, when I took this call, I was about 10 feet away from Jasmine. So I end the call and in my head, I'm like, don't freak out, Wins. Reassure Jasmine that everything's okay. So I look at Jasmine, I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna go up real quick because he has the keys. It's not gonna take me long and I'll come back down. She's like, all right. So I'm making my way back up to Second Falls. Once I'm out of Jasmine's sight, your boy is sprinting up. I'm like, oh my God. So I make it to the first fall in record time. I make it to the second fall in record time. I call, I'm like, yo, where you at? I look up. This waterfall is probably like 150 feet tall, and he's at the top. He can't really see me, but he can kind of figure out where I am. So I'm calling him, and I'm like, okay, so what's the game plan? And he's like, I can barely see you. So I say, just toss me the keys, I can catch it. He was like, these are fob keys. These are really expensive to replace. I don't know if I want to throw these keys down. And I'm like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? So I told him, maybe I can just go up there. He, with all serious tone in his voice, he said, do not come up here. I'm like, okay, well, that's not an option. And he's like, oh, wait, what if I put the keys inside it, blow up the, throw it over the waterfall, it will land on top of the water and it'll float, and then you can see where the keys are. At that point, I was like, that's probably one of the best ideas you've ever thought of. Now looking back at it, probably wasn't. So my brother, he gets the keys, he puts the keys in the, blows the, like he's some type of clown at a freaking party. We're on the phone, we're on speakerphone at this point, because I'm about waist deep in this waterfall, because I have to kind of maneuver and see where it goes. And he's like, are you ready? I'm like, ready. He's like, okay, I'm gonna give you the countdown. I'm like, hit me with it. 3, 2, 1. So I'm looking for it. I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm putting all my skills of sports that I've done throughout my entire life into this very moment. So I'm looking, I'm going, and then I see it. And I was like, when he threw it, it had just enough power to make it over the edge of the waterfall. But the thing was, I was about 20 feet away from where the key landed. Oh, and I forgot to mention the popped on impact. Now her keys are in the water and I don't know where the heck they are. So I become the Black Michael Phelps. I'm swimming in that water. I'm trying to find this key before it drops and hit the floor to where I can no longer find it. I'm swimming, I'm looking, I'm frantically looking around. I'm just like, come on, where are you, keys? I need you. And no luck. So I go back to my phone. I call my brother. I'm like, hey, so I have good news and bad news. He's like, the good news is the keys made it over the waterfall. The bad news is the broke on impact and I can't find it. He's just like, so I asked him, I'm like, bro, what are we gonna do? He said, keep looking for the keys. I'm gonna try and make my way down. So I'm looking for the keys. I'm looking for the keys. And guys, I can't find it. At this point, 45 minutes has passed. Nothing. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe she has spare keys. And when I tell her what exactly happened, it'll be totally fine. So I call my brother. I'm like, hey, I can't find the keys. So I'm gonna go back down to Jasmine, tell her what's going on, and see if she has a spare key. I like to reiterate, this is the first time me and Jasmine are hanging out in the first place. And this happens. So I finally get back down to Jasmine and I am trying my hardest to tell her what's happening with the most positive energy and smile ever. So she's like, hey, is everything okay? You were gone for a while. And I'm all wet. I tell her, I was like, okay, so we have good news and we have bad news. The good news is my brother and I are still alive. Well, for the most part. The bad news is my brother had the keys. As you know, he was already on the 3rd waterfall and he really couldn't get back down because it was really dangerous. So we decided that he should put the keys inside of a, throw the keys over the waterfall. I'll catch it and everything will be cool. Okay, so everything I just told you work except for the I'll catch it and everything will be cool part. I was like, yeah, we lost your keys. She was like, you know what? I think I have spare keys. Everything is gonna be okay. I was like, not the reaction I was expecting, but let's go with it. So she proceeds to call a roommate to see if there's a spare somewhere around. While she's doing that, I'm calling my brother to make sure he's alive. I call him, no answer. I'm like, all right, whatever. 10 minutes go by, I call my brother again, no answer. Now I'm starting to worry a little bit. I'm like, okay, that's 2 phone calls, no answer. So I check back with Jasmine. She says, oh, the keys is at my old place I used to stay at, so I'm contacting them. I'm like, cool. Call my brother again. He finally picks up, and I swear I thought that he experienced death. The way he answered the phone, and he was just like, Wins, I don't know if I'm ever gonna do that hike ever again. I almost didn't make it back. I was like, what? You good? And then he proceeds to say, I went to look back for the keys, and I still didn't find it. I'm like, oh, no. okay, I mean, I'm glad you're alive. So he comes back down and he apologized to Jasmine. He's just like, Jasmine, I am so sorry about your keys, but I have good news. She's like, what? It's like, I got your sunnies. Shout out to him for being optimistic. Love that guy. So I look at Jasmine. Oh, hold on. I got to use the bathroom. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Wow, I feel a lot better. Where was I? Oh yeah, my brother was like, I got your sunnies. So now Jasmine has realized her keys are not gonna return to her. And my brother took me to the side. We had to figure a game plan. We had to come up with a redemption plan to pay her back somehow. We f***ed up. We 100% f***ed up. It was a team effort. We both thought the plan was bulletproof. It was not. And this was the first time we hung out too. Why am I so bad with the ladies? After my brother and I had the little meeting, we reconvened with Jasmine and she realized that she doesn't have a spare key. And then reality hits and her true emotions came out. Yeah, so she started crying because she didn't have a spare key and she looked up how much it was gonna cost to replace her key and it was expensive. So I felt even worse and my brother looks at me like, so my brother pulls me back aside and was like, look, we're gonna make this up. We're going to go spearfishing and we're gonna catch all this fish and we're gonna have like a redemption party and we're going to make sure she is totally fine and we're just going to literally become her butler until she's happy. And I was like, yep, she deserved that. So I go back to check on Jasmine. She's finally stopped crying and I'm like, hey, I can take you back home and I promise I'll make it up to you. What are you doing tomorrow? She goes, it's okay. You don't have to make it up to me. I would just like to be driven home. Why can I never do anything right? That was probably one of the most awkward car drives. No one said a word the entire ride. The only person that was speaking to me was Siri. I had her on my phone. She was the only one that was breaking the silence. So I drop her off and yeah, that was it. You know what? I'm gonna call my brother. I need to get his reaction about this story. Remember that time when we were in Hawaii? I was talking to this 10 out of 10 Australian girl and we decided to go hiking.
Say no more. That's it. That's all I need. It's embedded in my head. I'll never forget. It was one of my most brilliant ideas that failed.
Where did that idea even come from?
Glad you asked. So I start going through my bag. This bag of everything. It's got water filter, passports, deodorant, body wipes, face wipes. Wait a minute. Hold on now. That could work. I'm like, what if I put the key inside a blow it into a beautiful little bubble, tie it, and then it says, boom, a little air package. I just send the keys down through the waterfall. Pew! You know, foolproof in my head. I was like, this is the greatest idea I've had today. Take the stupid little key that I didn't even want in the first place. I was doing her a favor. She asked me to hold her keys and her sunnies. I was like, all right, I'm gonna airmail you these keys right now, Wins. You ready? Yeah, man, I'm ready. Throw it. I don't even know what happened. This thing just popped and disappeared instantly. Waterfall for sure would have got pregnant, but the keys were gone. No doubt. Now nobody's got the keys.
45 minutes go by and I call you. Call you, and the way you picked up the phone, I thought you went through something serious. Please elaborate on that.
I'm like, okay, now I do need to go back down. But the thing is, to get back down, it's just you're climbing this like root system and tree branches. It's just a free climb. Absolutely broke one of the branches and legitimately fell. I did my "this is it" scream. I did a legitimate "I'm dying" scream as I'm falling off the side of this cliff. I ended up falling, catching another branch on my leg, finished climbing down, start walking towards y'all. I get there and Jasmine, who really started this whole thing, looks me in the face with the audacity and says, "Do you have my sunnies?" I said, "Take your sunnies." I don't usually talk like that to people. I just dodged death and she didn't know that, so it's not fair to her. But first thing she's gonna ask me about is these sunnies.
I totally forgot how badly she wanted the sunnies.
I'll never forget that, how she said it.
I'm glad I can get another perspective on this story.
Crazy, all right? Because this girl, she's like just hanging out with rappers and, you know, like that. We ain't doing like that. So, but hey, that's the price we pay.
I want to shout out to you and being my first live caller on here.
Long time listener, first time caller.
I'll talk to you later. There's gonna be more stories to come, but that's it for story time.